I don't know why I didn't review this movie when it came out in the beginning. I think part of it, though, is that I'm always afraid of movies that handle people with special needs. There's a perfect way of saying it, and I hate the word, and I don't say the word, but I'm gonna let someone else. Well, I'm still gonna bleep it out, but someone else say the word for me. There's someone that explained what you shouldn't do in movies.
Never go for.
So did Edward Norton do just that in this one? Let's find out. Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about a movie that is written and directed by Edward Norton. Now it is based on a novel, but Edward Norton made the screenplay for it and directed the movie and stars in it as well. Today we are going to be talking about 2019's Motherless Brooklyn, starring Edward Norton, Juju Mbatha Raw, Alec Baldwin, and Bruce Willis. Before I begin, I will answer the question for those that don't want any spoilers, because there might be some minor spoilers in this, and I'm not going to give away a lot of this movie, but I do have to talk about plot points here and there. To answer the question of my intro, I thought Norton did a pretty good job. A lot of my fears were subsided, at least mostly through the movie. There were some times that I felt he was pushing it a little too far, but is this, like Sean Penn and I Am Sam pushing it? No, it's not. But then again, like I said, there were a few times in the movie I'm kind of rolling my eyes. It's like, okay, man, just step it down a little bit. Because here's the thing. When you're the main actor in a movie and you're also the director, you're directing yourself. So you have to put the reins on yourself when needed. And most of the time you did a good job. But then again, there were times where I felt they were just throwing it in for either a laugh or to move the plot along. So, but most of the time I thought Norton was pretty respectful with how. Now I don't claim to have like an expertise in Tourette's syndrome, but I just feel like most of the time he did a good job at kind of showing how this could wreck your life. But then again, there were times where, they were few and far between, but there were times where it's just like, okay, you could dial it back a bit. So I thought he did a pretty good job. And do I recommend this movie for those that don't really want to know much about it? Yeah, I do. I thought, wow. In a way, I thought this was Norton trying to make his own Chinatown. In some ways, this does feel a lot like Chinatown, but even that, I won't say that this. There were things in this I liked better than Chinatown. It actually took the narration part of, say, like the Two Jakes, where you have Norton's character. He is narrating the entire movie, which in some ways it contradicts his Tourette syndrome, because you would think that his narration might be that way as well. With that being said, I don't know how the brain of someone that has Tourette's works. So if this is just like his thoughts, okay, maybe his thoughts are clear. But that being said, they talk about how his brain feels shattered sometimes. So I don't know. It was nice having the narration though, because there's a lot going on in this movie, so the narration does help. I thought all the performances are really good, whether they're in the movie a ton or a little. Bruce Willis isn't in this very much. I'll explain why here in a second. But he is definitely one of the main driving forces of this movie, at least plot wise. Alec Baldwin's great. Willem Dafoe's great. Everyone in this, whether they have a big or small part, they're fantastic. I love this movie, despite its flaws. I thought the acting especially was very good. The feel of the movie's really good. There was just a lot to like with this one. My fears were mostly subsided after I got to watch it. I kind of wish I would have watched it back then. I know I didn't see it in the theaters because the times I could go, it wasn't near me. And then when it was near me, I couldn't go. So yeah, I do recommend Motherless Brooklyn. Again, some people might be turned off by Norton's performance, but like I said, for the most part, I thought he was pretty respectful. All right, so what this movie is about is Edward Norton plays a man in the 1950s that has Tourette syndrome. Granted, they didn't know what it was back then, but he's always blurting out things, and he has tics and everything else. Most people know what Tourette syndrome is. They talk about how he grew up in an orphanage, and him and the people that work at the investigation agency that he's at, ran by Bruce Willis's character. Bruce Willis's character kind of took them all under his wing, and he said that Bruce Willis's character, Frank Minna, helped him to use his brain and taught him how to think straight. Because Edward Norton's character has a perfect memory. He can remember everything. If someone tells him something, there's a part where someone gives him like a ton of details, and aren't you going to write this down? He recites it all back to him right then and there. So he helps in this investigation agency. They're on a case with Bruce Willis's character, and the case goes bad. Bruce Willis's character gets shot, and he dies in the hospital. And this leads to Edward Norton's character having to figure out what happened to Bruce Willis's character. Plus, he starts to learn about everything, what Bruce Willis's character was, what he was, why he got shot, what case was he on, because he didn't really give them the details. So he's having to figure out all the details of that and how far up it goes, and it goes up pretty far. And again, that's a lot of the reasons why this one kind of feels like Chinatown. It's like, well, you got these things that may not mean anything to somebody, but then when you start to put all the pieces together, it goes higher up the chain. So that's the basic setup of the movie. This is one I don't want to spoil too much about because, again, there's a lot going on, but I thought the story was very interesting. And I thought, following Edward Norton's character around the whole movie, as he puts the pieces together, it was just kind of a fun and interesting journey. So as he meets different characters, as he figures out who is who and what is what, it's just kind of fun watching him put this together. Again, you got top-notch performances from everybody in this movie. There wasn't anybody in this that I said, I wish they weren't in this. Everyone that's in it does a very good job, no matter how small the part is. When it comes to the overall story, there is a lot going on. It's a little hard to follow here and there, but as Edward Norton's character narrates it to you, you can follow along what's going on. There is a love story in this, and I don't honestly think it was necessary. It works fine, but and this is where I might get a little spoilery. Juju Mbatha Raw's character kind of falls for Edward Norton's character throughout the movie, and it kind of starts off when he's lying to her and telling her that he is a reporter, and he starts to have some of his tics and says things, and she finds it cute, and it was a little but after a while they do have good chemistry. They don't force. It's almost like the beginning of a romance. They don't force it. It's not like technically they end up in bed together, but technically it's one of those. They slept together, but it means they just laid down next to each other and fell asleep. But they do form what's the beginnings of a romance in this. So the romance part, it's not the strongest part of the movie, but it works just fine. Just plot-wise, the movie was really interesting. Back to the performances. One of my favorite performances in this was Willem Dafoe. I mean, we all know Willem Dafoe's awesome anyway, but I mean, I love Willem Dafoe because no matter what part he's playing, he puts all of himself into it. and he does that here. Also, Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, I'll tell you, there's nobody more perfect to play the power hungry douche. You know, he just does. I mean, he is so believable when it comes to characters like this, because he can just, you can just tell that, I don't know, he just has this aura about him when he acts. Like, this guy, his character is obsessed with power, and even when he's discussing he assaults a girl when he's telling a story. He tells a story about how he assaulted a girl, but he doesn't even consider it that. It's just like, I have power and I can do whatever I want. You know, he just comes off like that, and it's just really, it's really creepy watching him talk like that. But yeah, for the most part, I don't really want to spoil too much about the story or anything. Again, following Edward Norton's character is interesting. I was interested the entire way through. Now, again, while sometimes his portrayal of his Tourette's syndrome was a bit much, other times it kind of fit in. It was more believable when it would just happen in the middle of a scene. That being said, there were times where it would happen and people that didn't know him wouldn't even react, so that was kind of weird. But there was times whenever it was there to push the plot along, it was kind of, I don't know, I didn't like it as much as when, say, he's just walking down the street and he's ticking, you know. There's a difference. So yeah, I think the performance might turn some people off, but you know, I was fine with it, and for the most part. But yeah, that's my review of Motherless Brooklyn. I do recommend it. You can rent it for pretty cheap now, so if you want to check it out, you can definitely do that on the cheap. Anyway, that's my review. See you later.